Yeah, I hear you. You hear me? You hear me? Testing. All right, well, we're live. Let's see if anybody can hear me. Charlie's coming back in.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Little oops. I'm going to use the restroom really fast, okay? So keep entertained
Of
a
course.
little bit. All
Of
right.
course.
Okay, be right back. I'm going to talk to Neek for like 2 minutes and then I'll be back, okay? So we'll get people in here.
Okay.
Okay.
I see Laura. Oh, good. Yeah, he'll be right back. Um did you want the link to get into StreamYard and participate, Laura? Because I can post it. Oh, I don't know how entertaining I can be. Um, I did. I did ask my dad one time. I thought he was pretty smart. Uh, I did ask him one time, "Can you explain to me, Dad, exactly what it is when we have an eclipse?" And he just looked at me and said, "No, son." I know that was a bad joke. Hey, I see Matt Hayes there. Looks like you muted yourself. Oh, there you go.
Hey, I normally stay muted.
Well, my wife's not here, so I don't have to mute. Uh, she's going to see that later, and I might get in trouble for that. So, no, she was very cooperative today. She supervised as I helped some neighbors clear a tree that fell across our street. It was my tree that fell across the street 6 o'clock in the morning, and I got up 7 o'clock to go to the doctor. And as I'm opening my garage door to go out, there's this guy cutting off the top of the tree that had fallen on the far side of the road, and he dragged the top of the tree back so at least one car could pass in the gap that was left. And I didn't even have time to thank him. I said, "I'm late for my doctor's appointment. Thanks for doing that." And I took off. And then when I came back, and a couple of neighbors saw me working on trying to clean up what was left, a couple of guys from my church stopped. And one guy stopped with his kids, and they got out chainsaws and helped me clear it. But even with their professional help and chainsaws, I found out one guy actually is a professional logger. Um, so he had no trouble figuring out what to do. But with their help, I just got finished a little while ago clearing that thing. So I'm a little bit stiff. Uh, but
Wow. How big was the tree?
Well, it broke off. Well, these are big ponderosa pines. I mean, it was huge. I don't know what the circumference of where it broke in the middle was. Probably diameter, probably 30 inches or so. So it's probably about 4 feet in diameter. Or yeah, diameter is from one side of the circle to the other. It's probably about 4 feet at the bottom at ground level. But
What
it's
did
a
you do with all the wood? I mean,
huh?
what'd you do with everything that you had cut down?
I
What'd you put?
just got it off onto the side of the road so that, two lanes can pass, or, two cars can pass now. And most of it's up on my lawn. And the remaining, I don't know, 30 feet or so where it broke off at, the guy said, "I'll come over in the daylight and we'll take that down." He said, "I don't want to do it in the dark." He says, "But I says, well, you don't think it'll hurt something, and take a chance?" He goes, "Man, I can make that thing fall on a pinhead." That's what the professional logger said. He said, "I can make it fall any way you want." And so he's going to fell it for me. And
Um, well, that's great. I guess they'll get rid of they'll carry off the wood for you.
I can burn the wood if I want. He's told me that that particular tree probably burns too hot for my particular home style fireplace. I got a pretty standard fireplace. He says, no, you need to burn that kind of stuff outdoors. So I'll either I offered it to him and he didn't want it. I said, well, when I go fishing, I'll bring it with me and we'll put it next to the river. And I know a spot up by the Grand Coulee Dam where we get these big rainbow trouts. And I know I appreciated the people that have had their fires going out there when I've been there because it's kind of cold. And so I'll bring some wood this time and treat everybody there to some warmth. There's Matt.
Okay, I'm in.
We got to start talking nice about him now.
Dang it. I'm hungry too. I had to go talk to the Mike.
What do you eat?
Hey, Mark.
Hey, buddy.
I got some Oreos. Don't tell my wife because she's not
Double-
watching.
Double.
So what do you guys think of it?
Double.
I did. Well, turn it off.
He was not able to understand the issue of the chemical reactions in the brain producing logical inference. And then when he went to the issue of computers, they're intelligently designed. He doesn't realize he's shooting himself in the foot several times there. Post a stream link, please.
Oh, okay. Me too. Or are you going to?
Beat you to it.
Yep, you probably did.
I'm slick and quick.
Yeah, but I find links to articles that you forgot you wrote.
That's true. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Put some feedback in there if you want to come into the chat room here. Let's see what he has to say.
Yeah, I thought it
4K?
was good. I got my granddaughter called, and then somebody else called, so it got all interrupted. I might have to go back and watch it again. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I thought he was polite, and it wasn't ugly.
Yeah. He was polite, but he didn't get the issue of the materialism self-refuting thing. A lot of atheists have so much trouble with it, and I believe it's because their frontal lobes are tied behind their back.
Or they're suppressing the truth.
Or they're doing that, yeah.
I forgot where I read that. I read it somewhere.
Romans 1 something.
I hope he goes to your website and looks at some of the articles. I came late. So some of the links to the articles I gave, because it'll sharpen up his atheism, if nothing else, and he'll avoid some of the weaker arguments that really don't hold water. And
he brought up the issue of Calvinism. A lot of atheists bring up Calvinism.
I wasn't here for that. So
no, I'm really interested in why they do that.
I still haven't met anyone that's a follower of Calvin. I mean,
yeah,
I suppose there might be somebody.
Yeah, he was polite, and I agree he's lost. Ponderosa Pine. Well, nobody's really saying anything. We only got 5 people watching, so no big deal.
I wasn't watching the text. Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, we got a lot of Ponderosa Pine here, blue spruce, and Doug fir. We got everything up here in northeast Washington, FEMA Region 10.
Oh,
veritable Bigfoot territory.
I think I'm in FEMA Region 8 or 9. I forgot which.
I guess I'd agree with your assessment, Matt Slick. I mean, it was at least a respectful debate. You don't always get those, so.
Right. Yeah, I don't think he did very well, but
I'm sure he'd say the same to you, so.
I'm sure he would say that, but if you were to go back and transcribe stuff, who had the good point, who couldn't answer, who had the good point, who couldn't answer. That's what it would be. You'd see he didn't, there's a lot of stuff he didn't get.
Do you think the debate meandered a bit, or do you think it stayed on subject pretty well?
it meandered. I had a reason for going where I wanted to go,
Okay.
and the issue of meandering is an issue of his worldview, because if he's going to hold to the idea of materialism, then he can't have any moral rights and wrongs. He can't do anything. All he can do is just say that it's his opinion on things. Well, it also refutes his own atheism, because he can't trust his brain to be an atheist or evolutionist or anything. And this is so fundamental that it undermines everything. And if atheists were to admit, yes, it does undermine, because it does, then it puts in doubt everything they're thinking. They have to abandon the idea that materialism is the way, the truth, and the life. It doesn't work. If that doesn't work, then it implies the idea of God's existence. So this is a very fundamental issue, and it's the precondition for a lot of things and discussions that need to be had about worldviews and stuff. That's right. Are you a Christian or atheist?
Me?
Yeah.
I am not a Christian.
What are you?
I guess if you had to put a name on it, you'd probably consider me agnostic or an atheist.
Okay.
I grew up Christian, but I am no longer.
So what happened that you gave up the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?
Oh, you've heard the story. Went off to college. I have a master's degree in geophysics. So I went off to college, learned some geology, all for spit and vinegar to, Kent Hovind my way through all those classes and teach those professors what for. And met a professor who was able to answer all the questions I had logically. And, things kind of fell apart after that.
What do they do with polystrate fossils?
They are not foreseen as an issue.
Why not?
Why not? There's no reason why you couldn't have a polystrate fossil.
What?
Yeah.
Through 600 million years of rock strata, you have a single tree? That's not a problem?
Well, most polystrate fossils happen during large events like that, where you would have a bunch of sediment laid down at one time, like a mudslide or something like that, standing up a tree. We find that stuff nowadays commonly from volcanic eruptions, what have you. So no reason to think we wouldn't have that in the past.
But they've found these all over the world where these polystrates are through, I don't know the correct terms, Mesozoic, Cenozoic, Paleozoic.
They're going through what's identified by standard geology is multiple eras of deposits that took place over thousands of years.
I am aware of the arguments. Unless you bring up a specific example, I can't really talk to what you're talking about here. My understanding of the subject is, again, I've taken lots of classes in this, right? I've worked in the field before. My understanding of this stuff is you need to have a lot of sediment drop at one time, and such that the trees are in all these wacky positions. You can have a lot of sediment drop at one time in a multitude of different environments. That must have happened at that time. If you get a mudslide, that'll land your tree sticking straight up. Mudslides have happened throughout history. I see no reason why a mudslide couldn't happen again.
Well, if you go to the link I just posted, you'll see some pictures of polystrate fossils that are altogether different than what you're describing. These things are laid down in layers of sediment.
Wait, Charlie is Matt Slick in the chat?
I think my posts come up that way because I'm an admin. Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, this is there's some.
I've seen all these pictures before.
Oh, okay. Well, you see that they're not something that was buried in one single event.
Why not? I'm seeing the exact same.
Well, I'm saying
they were the Noah's flood.
Yeah, what I'm saying is from the standard geological explanation, those sediments were deposited over long eras of time.
Not necessarily. It's case by case basis depending on where you're standing. You can have fast sediment and you can have slow sediment. There's no reason why you can't have one or the other.
When you say fast and slow in geological timing, thousands of years are just a blink of an eye. So what I'm saying is the tree standing there in a swamp, would have decayed before the next deposit could have been.
Because you're assuming because you're assuming these are deposited in a swamp. You need to have other evidence of a swamp. I'm seeing a lot of what looks to be mudstone, maybe sandstone. You could have mudstone come in from a mudslide.
Actually,
And they'll be just fine.
Actually, they go through several layers of coal deposits.
None of those pictures have coal deposits layers in them.
Well, on that particular article, it doesn't, but there are. I have some in my library where they're going through coal deposits.
I don't know what to say about that at that point. I'm not looking at that. I don't want to. If you guys want to talk something else, you can. I can talk geology all day, but just I don't want to bogart the conversation. I don't know what you guys are up to. But yeah, the same way that you think those trees were deposited is probably the same way I think trees were deposited. Difference is how big the catastrophe was. I have no problem saying floods and mudslides and volcanic eruptions and all these other things happen, but I see them happening the same way they happen today as they happened 10 million years ago.
Pleistocene to recent lava dated as less than 1.6 million years old from its position in the rock layers, which has been dated as 773 million years old using rubidium strontium dating. Upper Miocene to Pleiocene lava has dated to 5 to 9 million years old by potassium argon dating, and dated at 31 to 39 million years old by rubidium strontium dating. In another case, same lava was dated stratigraphically as Pliocene to Heliocene, that is less than 5.3 million years old. So it gave rubidium strontium dating ages of 570 million years and 870 million years. They're all over the map, different methods. And this is from G. Fowry, Principles of Isotope Geology, 2nd edition, New York. I could read you more.
Okay.
At Somerset Dam in Queensland, Australia, 15 rock samples from a conventionally dated Jurassic-Triassic intrusion that is possibly or supposedly 216 million years to 225 million years old gave potassium argon model ages resulting from 183 to 252 million years with an isochron date of 174 million years, yet the error of the dating method was estimated to be only plus or minus 9 million years. When dated by the rubidium strontium isochron method, an age of 393 million years was obtained. When dated by the samarium neodymium isochron method, an age of 259 million years was calculated. The lead to lead dating method gave an age of 1,425 million. In other words, 1.4 billion years, plus or minus 1,000 years for the same. Was it 10,000 years? The same rock intrusion. That's in the book Radioisotopes and the Age of the Earth, Isochron Discordance and the Role of Inheritance in Mixing Radioisotopes in the Mantle and Crust by A. Andrew Snelling. I got more. The methods for dating the rocks get conflicting methods, conflicting information. Which one's true?
I am well aware that that there are lots of creationists, and not just creationists, but a lot of creationist accounts of different rock layers being dated all funky dory. I'm aware of those things. I will say when I did my research for my graduate degree, I used radiometric dating to correspond to some stuff I was doing, and it worked out exactly the way it was supposed to. Why did those people
the way it was supposed to? I like that.
I don't know the exact points as to why they got things that were so vastly inaccurate. I'm completely unaware about those individual scenarios, but when I've used it, it's worked. So
another interesting case is a stark contrast between the age of zircon grains in the Jemez granodiorite of New Mexico, which dates
granodiorite.
Granodiorite, thank you.
There you go.
Which date as 1.5 billion years old by the uranium lead dating method, and the date of only 6,000 years old by the uranium helium diffusion method of dating. That's
why those two, if that's a specific zircon that gave two dates, I don't know. I don't have that exact study in front of me. I'm telling you, just listen off random things that.
Okay, I got a question for you.
No, I mean, I can't answer them, obviously.
I was watching a show. It's all right. I was watching a show once, and these guys, and they were showing, I think, parts of the Grand Canyon or some huge, I can't remember exactly, huge canyon. And apparently these rock strata were visible in the canyon, and then like 100 miles away, the same rock strata, the same layers. And they said, "What do you notice about these rock strata? I mean, all you saw were these horizontal lines, you know." And they
Sure.
go, "They're Mesozoic, Cenozoic, whatever they are." And I'm looking at the thing. You know, he's not talking to me; he's just narrating. And I'm looking at it. Just looks, you know, like rock layers. And he asked this question. He goes, "Why are they flat?" I'm thinking, flat. He said, if they were laid down in slow layers as evolution and millions and millions and millions of years of geology would suggest, why are they all so even and flat for hundreds of miles in different directions in these rock strata? It's supposed to be all these hundreds of millions of years old. And the light went on, ding, because it was a flood. Because if the issue, and he explained it, if these things are just laying flat, even a few hundred years, you're going to have gouges, you're going to have gorges, you're going to have erosion, you're going to have all kinds of stuff. They shouldn't be flat.
So, again, you're naming things without me knowing what you're talking about. But if what you're saying are gigantic layers, I'm going to have to assume that gigantic sized layers probably a mudstone and therefore the bottom of a body of water, which is what you're exactly assuming, right? The difference is you can have large amounts of shales, sandstones, what have you, laid down for hundreds of miles, and any particular deviations in them, which you should expect from a flood somehow to happen from a flood, but is a problem for long Earth, those deviations would more or less be taken away when the sediment goes through its cementation process. When you get sediment to rock, it gets crushed down, right? By definition, that's going to get rid of all those gouges and tracks and everything else that you have a problem with. That's what you have to believe for the flood to do it. And that's what I also believe for long Earth. I don't see, if it's a problem for me, it's a problem for you.
No, it's not a problem for me at all. How about this issue of, I've been reading on this, carbon-14. This is really interesting because carbon-12 and carbon-13 are stable, but carbon-14 is not. It has a half-life of 5,730 years.
Yep.
And so the statistics or math, I don't understand how, but they just say it, that if there's a biological whatever, because it absorbs carbon from the atmosphere and nitrogen does this, nitrogen-14 to carbon-14 causes, anyway, that when an animal dies, it no longer is ingesting or producing or getting any more into it.
Yes.
And so then, you know, it'll die and then the carbon-14 goes down. And so the maximum amount of time a biologically arranged, whatever it is, thing can have carbon in it is, I think, 90,000 years or up to 100,000 years. I've heard a couple different things, but after that, the height left,
you got
nothing left.
Yeah, sure. I don't know the exact number, but I could believe 100K would sound good.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. So 100K is a good number to use. But diamonds are supposedly made in rock that's hundreds of millions of years old, right?
Diamonds usually are found in kaolinite veins, and yeah, they're thought to be deep earth, so they take a long time to at least reach us. Yeah.
And coal also takes millions of years to form under pressure, deep earth, things like that, right?
I believe that's the consensus. Yeah.
Because the diamonds are made of carbon, the coal's made of carbon, so that means biological origin, right?
I do know where you're getting at. I am well aware of these things, but yes, sure.
And yet they're finding carbon-14 in diamonds and coal structures. So how can it be millions of years old if the half-life necessitates?
So those papers that you're referring to, I think I've read into this a little bit because none of what you're saying is my first go around with this stuff.
Okay.
I've read into this a little bit. I can't remember who wrote the main paper. Was it Schnelling maybe who did all that stuff?
I think so. One of them.
Jonathan
it's interesting when you read the paper.
Done a lot of good writing on that.
It's interesting when you read the paper because they didn't actually do any of their own research, right? They sound their stuff out, and the paper starts with these big long lists of all these other various specimens that have quote unquote found carbon-14 in them as well. Fossils, coals, diamonds, outside of what Schnelling and all covered. And when you go and you follow their citations of what they cited, all the papers they cite as problems with this theory were actually papers about calibrating the machines and running into these errors in regard to the process. And Snelling and all them quote these examples as problems when the scientific community says, no, these aren't problems. These are things that we need to take into account because you can have errors in the process that gives you these faulty numbers. So when a scientist looks at this, they say, oh, well, something must have happened in the process. We have all these things we can do about that. Try it again. When the creationist looks at it, they see it as this like damning evidence, and that doesn't make any sense. And that's from his own paper, I will add.
Okay.
There's one of Snelling's articles right there for you to check out. And he's got the references there available.
Yeah, I'm saying I read through those references, and those references, like he's the people that actually do this research, people who get paid to do this, see this as, okay, this is a problem. Somehow something got in there. We need to work on our methods. Whereas they're taking it as like, oh, this is a big issue, but only they're taking it. Do you see that? Do you see how that could be an issue?
Well, it's a big issue in that it doesn't fit their projected model.
No, it's not that it doesn't fit the projected model. It's that things aren't as clean as you thought they would be. You can have, if you get these sort of issues, that means that you had a problem along the way. This is a well-documented problem. I think there's like carbon-14 upwelling in marine animals by the Arctic is the same sort of thing, where if you understand where you can get these small isotopes in these components along the process, you can filter that stuff out and have better data. It doesn't mean there's a problem with the system. It means that there's a problem with what you individually did. And it's very common in science. That's why we have to calibrate our machines and stuff.
So when the scientists get conflicting information, they just say, oh, we made a mistake someplace because they know for a fact that the Earth is old.
No, when a scientist gets conflicting information, they need to figure out why they have conflicting information. And if your options are either the math is wrong or I had a personal error, you're more than likely going to have a personal error. And especially after the fact, all the people that they cite say it's a personal error, but somehow only Snelling got it right when they actually didn't do the work. They just sent it out to these different labs, and the people that do the labs notice these are errors. That's conflicting information there.
Well, I'm reading stuff from other sources, not just Snelling. And
Snelling might not even be the guy. He's just the one that came to mind off the top of my head. There's a few of them that did.
L. Verdenman.
He's giving you the sources so that you can check for yourself to see that their projections are completely and utterly dumbfounded by the evidence they discover.
And again, as I said before,
they have to rethink.
I've personally used this information when I did paleomagnetic reconstructions. I used radiometric dating on my samples to correlate them with my geomagnetic dating, and they correlated wonderfully. It's personally worked for me. I had two different sources that gave me the same number. Sure, these people found times it didn't work, but it doesn't mean the entire process is faulty because of the thousands of scientists that use this every single day, and explorational geologists and geophysicists that use this every single day. It works for them, but it didn't work for these 4 examples. Therefore, throw the baby out with the bathwater. That seems like a failure to me.
Well, we could talk about more stuff like that because I don't
want to bog off the conversation.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Hey, that's okay. Yeah, I'm doing all kinds of research and different stuff. Volcanic activity and the rate of deposition of volcanic disposition from the mantle, human DNA deterioration, fossil soft tissue problems, erosion rates of land.
If you want to bounce this stuff, I routinely talk to creationists about this stuff because they like to bounce it off me and get a perspective from, a heathen, if you will. I'm familiar with these conversations. I can give you the other side if you want, and you can obviously make up your own mind.
Well, I got a question for you anyway, though. Does all this mean Jesus did not rise from the dead?
So the reason I left the faith was because I did, in fact, grow up in that set. I grew up that Kent Hovind, Ken Ham, biblical literalism. And when I found there to be problems with biblical literalism that started me questioning the faith. And then beyond that, I found other issues I had with the concepts in general, and it expanded beyond that. But I will definitely say that there are, millions of Christians out there who don't have a problem with old earth, don't have a problem with evolution, and still have a very firm foundation in their faith, and good for them.
But does it mean that Jesus did not rise from the dead?
I think it's a completely separate issue. I don't think Jesus rose from the dead, and I don't think that Noah's flood happened.
Why don't you think Jesus rose from the dead?
Because that is a supernatural act, and I do not believe supernatural acts happen.
Why not?
Because I've never actually seen one. No one's ever actually seen a supernatural act. They've only read about them, or they believe they existed, when most people would argue they didn't.
No, I've seen supernatural things happen.
I believe you've seen that, but as Dr. Garret said in the debate, just because you believe it happened doesn't mean it actually happened.
Here's the thing: is I can say that with you.
Well.
I can do the same thing and say, well, just you believe evolution is true doesn't mean it's true. Just
Oh,
because
very
you
much.
believe. What that is a ridiculous thing. Oh, you believe it happened, but it didn't really happen. I understand that you believe it. It's a kind of a condescending thing. Look, I'm not stupid. I'm an intelligent individual. I'm telling you, I saw stuff and things have happened. Absolutely. These stuff has happened with witnesses, and things have happened. Supernatural stuff. I could tell you, but how are you going to verify it? You can't verify it because it's not subject to verification like that.
Yes.
But the thing,
I 100% agree. So
for you to say that Jesus couldn't have risen from the dead is just an assumption that you make.
I didn't say he couldn't. I said I don't believe he did.
And I asked, why do you believe
I
he did
told
not?
you why. Because I don't believe the supernatural happens. I don't believe Muhammad. Muhammad rose up to heaven. I don't believe XYZ.
We're not talking about Muhammad.
We're talking
about Christianity. Why is it you don't believe Jesus rose from the dead? You say supernatural can't happen, or what?
I don't believe the supernatural happens. That's a supernatural claim. Therefore, I don't believe it happened.
So it's just arbitrary with you. Just because you don't believe it, you don't believe it. That's why.
I guess you could probably consider it arbitrary to an extent. Yeah, I don't believe it happened, so I don't believe it happened. I don't really have a more in-depth and astounding definition for you.
Yeah, in other words, you just deny it. There's no reason to deny it.
Oh, I have a reason to deny it. I just said the reason. You may not like the reason I gave. But
What's the reason?
My reason is I don't believe in the supernatural. I don't believe supernatural acts have happened. You tell me a supernatural act happened, I'm going to need more evidence than just, well, it happened.
So it's your worldview that's the issue. If I were to give you some supernatural activity that I've witnessed personally, you could just say, well, you can't verify it. So no matter, it wouldn't be an anecdote. Because if I told you I heard someone say this, you go, that's secondhand. If I said, well, I saw this myself, you'd say, well, you just thought it happened. It doesn't matter what the issue is. You're just going to deny it.
I suppose that's true. Yeah, my wife believes in ghosts. I don't believe that she's seen ghosts, but she says she has. Does that mean she actually saw ghosts? No, I don't think she did. I don't doubt her. I don't doubt her views. I don't doubt the way she looks at the conversation. But that just because she believes doesn't mean I have to believe it.
That's true.
And
anyway, we're blabbing.
So, I mean, I have no problem with you believing your beliefs, but that doesn't make me believe your beliefs. I think that's a fair assessment.
So did you watch the debate?
Yes, I watched a fair majority of it. I hung out in LPP's live after show for a bit, but they just talked biology, and I hate things that live, so I'm all about rocks.
Okay. So what'd you think? Just curious.
I thought it was a decent debate. As you said, you guys were friendly with each other, which is not always something that happens in online debates. I don't think it's unfair to say that nothing new was covered, right? There's a lot of stuff that you've heard 1,000 times before being repeated, but that's par for the course of these online conversations. So,
yeah,
I wouldn't necessarily say anyone won. I would say you guys had a good. It was more of a conversation than a debate, I would almost argue.
Yeah, I like that. I like just conversations going back and forth, and he was a polite guy, so.
Yeah, that's so nice to see on the internet.
Yeah, I like that. I'm glad he was polite. It wasn't obstreperous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are people trying to get in the room that Are we blocking people?
No, you're not blocking anybody. There's room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more spots. If they want to come in, they can.
Well, since there's not a lot of questions, I'd love to share a praise report to you and Charlie.
Sure.
Our little 8-year-old granddaughter was finishing Bible study night before last, and she said, Mommy, I want to ask Jesus to forgive me of my sins, and I want to be adopted into his family like you and Daddy are. And so Lindsay asked her some questions. She understood them. So tonight she called, and she called on video. She was just beaming. And she said, Mama, did you hear? I've been adopted by Jesus, and he's forgiven my sins because I asked him to. I said, darling, I'm so thankful. Her face was lit up. And she said, Mama, have you and Pawpaw been adopted by Jesus? I said, yes, honey. Praise the Lord, we have. And so then she started going through the line of family. And I said, well, darling, you need to talk to them about that, because some, we don't think are. But she's just beaming. And she said, Benji's one of the dogs. She said, I accidentally kicked Benji, but Jesus forgave me because I asked him. And it's just, we're floating on air.
Good. Well, that's a nice praise report.
Thank you.
Just ground her in the faith. Good for you. Good stuff.
That's just answered prayer to hear your grandbaby call and say those things, especially with Asperger's and her difficulties. She's, she kept saying tonight, she said, Mama, I just love Jesus. I just love Jesus. She said, I don't understand why everybody doesn't love Jesus, and ask them to adopt him. And I said, that is hard to understand, isn't it, darling? She said, she said, because they have to go to hell. And her face got sad. She said, I really hate that.
Hey, Chuck, when you post, put Chuck and then colon and Chuck's post, because I'm posting too under my name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no biggie.
How do I get in here as myself?
Matt, this is the real Matt. There, how about that? Yeah, well, praise God. Praise God. Just ground her in the faith. I don't have any grandbabies yet. I need them. I'm 64.
Yeah, thanks for the link. I'll take a scan at it sometime.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a land that's formed within our lifetimes. Well, I don't know how old you are, but it erupted in my lifetime, and it's now an established landscape.
Download.
That's wonderful, Joanne. Did you write to Deb or talk to Deb about it?
I think she's gotten kicked off. Let me try to help her with.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I'm sure Debbie will get a real jazz out of that, though. So remind her to communicate that to Debbie.
Save it there.
I'm sorry. He handed me the phone, Charlie, his phone. I keep knocking myself off. Yeah, Deb will love it. I'm anxious to tell her.
Yes, she'll be glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And I think, well, I might have texted Nick. I can't remember if I did or not, but I will.
Well, she would tell me if you had. Usually she does. Sometimes she forgets. But,
oh, you'd be surprised.
Well, she doesn't like me very much. She hangs around with me, and she's basically sick and tired of me because I'm just so wonderfully obnoxious. It's her own fault. She says it was one of my spiritual gifts. So I started perfecting it. And maybe that wasn't a good idea.
She tell you that I told her that the Lord told me that, Matt, you can't bring that in here. The Lord told me that you and Charlie and Deb and Nick are supposed to move to North Carolina. She said, the Lord told you. I said, he sure did. She got a kick out of that.
Well, the Lord wants us to go anywhere. He's got to just open the door and convince us.
Yeah. Once he tells me, I'll be ready.
Well, he told me just to tell y'all.
Yeah, well, we thought we were going to go to Arizona and all the doors closed. So yeah, so I'm glad we're still here, because when the zombie apocalypse happens, I'm glad I'm going to be here.
Well, I wish that you would. I know this isn't the place, but I wish that you would share some more with us about that. But I know it would have to be elsewhere, and I
About
don't.
moving to
Hear about
Arizona?
zombie apocalypse?
Oh, zombie apocalypse? Oh, that. Well, let me
Yeah.
just say that there's probably a shadow government trying to pull the strings in several places in the world. There's definitely some infiltration inside of the United States government. We have liberal wacko moron butt faces who are in control, and the leftists are in control of the media. They're working in concert with some aspects of the government. The FBI has been infiltrated. We know that from a lot of stuff. And they're working to silence conservatives and change the laws in such a way that conservatives who don't agree with them can be penalized. The cancel culture is simply the fruit of that bedrock of intolerance that is being promoted under the guise of freedom. And if we Christians don't stand up, what's going to happen is we're going to be persecuted. We're going to become second-class citizens if they can get our guns away from us, and they will silence us. You've got to control the churches, and you got to make sure that the pastors in the churches are not preaching stuff biblically. And to do that, tax exemption status helps to do that. It helps to keep them under control. And so that needs to be gotten rid of. And the pastors need to start really preaching and teaching the truth of God's word and not worrying about the consequences. And if churches, congregations go away, then so be it. This is what needs to happen, and it's not happening. So what's going to happen is we only have one of two masters. It's either the sacred or the secular. And when the state throws God out, then the state is the thing that decides what rights you have. And since the state is secular, it moves towards secularism, and it leans towards secularist ideas, particularly in the issues of sexuality and personal convenience. So abortion is promoted. And when this kind of stuff happens, and those who stand up against that kind of a thing are the ones who are going to become the outcasts and ones who are going to become ultimately prosecuted and persecuted. As you see, it's already happening. When that happens, then it will become a totalitarian regime where you're not allowed to disagree with the status quo. And then what will probably happen is they will start moving us into certain areas, maybe, and or requiring certain levels of education for the children that we have. There's already a PBS lawyer that said that all Trump supporters' children should be taken away from them and sent to camps for re-education. This is all already working. And I'm developing an article. I had to do so many different things. I haven't been able to concentrate on it as much as I want, but I'm developing stuff, an article on the Christian's duty to resist ungodliness in here. We have under abortion, Roe versus Wade. The taxpayers are subsidizing roughly 24% of all abortion costs in the U.S. State funding of abortion is now under Medicaid. Military holds first event marking Gay Pride months. Since 2002, the American government has spent more than $41 million specifically to promote gay rights globally. Final rule to revise the definition of spouse is under the FMLA. President Obama proclaims June of 2016 as LGBTQ Pride Month. Of course, prayer was gotten out of the school. I got to find the links and information for that. Same-sex marriage, federal marriage amendment to define marriage between one man and one woman fails to pass in U.S. Congress in 2015.
I don't mean to interrupt. I don't mean to interrupt you necessarily, but I gotta go to bed soon. So I was wondering if you wanted to expand on that prayer in schools thing. I've taught public education before, so I'd like to know what your side on that is. Again, sorry I interrupted, but I go
all right
soon. So
I'll tell you what the Bible prophesies is going to happen, because the world turned its back on God. There's going to be an economic global kind of a movement with a single individual who's going to claim certain abilities to be able to unite people. You can't have this kind of a thing happen unless the cultures are basically secularized. One of the ways to do this is to get prayer out of the schools. The United States Supreme Court taught that prayer was certainly fine in the schools in the 1800s. And in the 1900s, suddenly the oligarchy says, no, we can't have that anymore. But the United States government and the higher powers that be actually funded prayer in schools, Bible studies in schools, and all of this stuff, because they understood that a country that is united morally can stand, but when it's divided, it's going to fall. You get rid of prayer, next thing you know, you have abortion, now you have homosexuality, and who are the ones who are going to be ridiculed? The Christians. I watched a show. I watched the last one of them is the Murder Files or something. Was that what it was? I don't know. And it was on the Richard Jewell thing. I don't know if you know about the Richard Jewell case from the Atlanta bombings back in the 80s. And they lambasted this guy. He saved people's lives, and they just turned on him. But at any rate, in this series, it was fictionalized. They had some people in some wooded area in the Carolinas, I think it was, or Tennessee, and it was not part of the real historical event, but they produced it in the show. And they had that basically hillbilly types who were dirty, who spoke like this, you know what I'm saying? And they had these guns and ARs and the whole bit, and they're quoting Bible verses, and they're whacked. And this is how the Christians were presented. This is how they're represented. They're represented in degrading manners, in mocking manners. It's a form of persecution that's already occurred. And I've got documentation from other forms that are occurring on Christians as well. It's going to increase. And so you got to ask yourself, what do you want to be a part of in the secular world? Are you in favor of homosexuals being persecuted? No. Are you in favor of atheists being persecuted? No. How about Christians being persecuted? And ask yourself, yeah, maybe they deserve it. This is the kind of thing that's happening in our culture. And we're going to be persecuted. We're going to be jailed. We're going to lose our jobs. The cancel culture is alive and well. It's causing all kinds of problems. There's just a whole bunch of stuff. They kick God out of the public square, and they put inside of it, they put secularism. And in fact, secular humanism is officially a religion according to the United States Supreme Court, and secular humanism is taught all across the schools.
So again, this is why I was asking if you could expand on that a little bit, because I've taught in public schools before, and I'm not going to agree with the stuff you're saying there. Secular humanism is talking about schools. God's not allowed in schools. Could you expand on that a little bit? What does that mean? Could you provide an example, perhaps, of maybe describe what you think God in school is then, and what God not in school is now, so I can get a better visual on the subject.
It used to be in schools that you had Bibles, and they would use Bible as a history textbook. They would teach morality out of the Bible. This is what they used as a textbook in schools in the 17 and 1800s, and early 1900s even. Did you know this?
For a history class, I assume?
In schools all across America. Did you know that?
Well, how was the Bible used as a history text? As
they would use it for history, teaching history, teaching religion, teaching morality. They would use it that way, but you don't know that. You should read the novel 1984, because I don't
think they used the Bible in 1984 too much. So
the book 1984.
I know George Orwell. Yes.
Yeah. It's written by an atheist. You should read it, because there's a statement in there. I'm going to paraphrase it. He who controls the present controls the past. He who controls the past controls the future. The leftists are in control of our education system. They're in control of our media. They can then say what happened in the past. And by silencing the facts of history, you can control the narrative that in the color of the light shed on historical events, so that you can then get people to think the way you want. This is written in that book, 1984, but it's also was practiced in Nazi Germany. So you have no idea really what's going on. There's a lot of persecution coming for the Christians.
Well, again, I'm trying to get I gotta go to bed here in like 5 minutes, just like
right.
I'm gonna be heading off here. But I'm trying to get an example, because, as I said, I've taught in the public schools, and the public school I taught in, I wouldn't say was in any practical sense of the term against Christianity. Students could pray before games if they wanted to.
Good.
I couldn't tell them to pray, but they could pray. I had students who were devoutly Christian who had their Bibles on them.
Oh, good.
And there was no problem with that. And like legally, I couldn't have done something even if I wanted to, and I didn't want to. But
Good.
legally, I couldn't. So I'm trying to figure out, should the Bible, and I believe actually in the world history class, you do talk about passages from the Bible because the Bible is to some extent a historical text. That's stuff that is used in schools, but only in particular circumstances. We don't have any class in which we teach morality because you don't only teach morality.
Yes,
it's something you acquire, you know?
No, they teach it, values clarification. I had to go to my own high school where my daughter was and talk to the principal. I had a radio show here in Boise, Idaho, and she told me what was going on, and I knew exactly what it was. I made an appointment with the principal, and I walked in, and my wife and I sat down with our daughter. No, our daughter wasn't there, and I said, I've been hearing that this is what you're teaching to my daughter. You're teaching about values clarification, which is how to develop a moral system based on secular ideas. And they have these
values clarification.
Look it up on the web, the term values clarification. It was big in the 80s and 90s and some into the 2000s. So they said they had this, and I also know that they actually had work on, they had writings on how to handle parents who are upset. You disagree with them. Yes, that's not what we intend to do. And you say these certain things. And so I'm in there sitting there with the principal. He goes, yes, we agree. There's not supposed and I sat there and I just listened to him. And I said, let me tell you something. I said, I know exactly what you're doing. I know what you're reading. I know how it works. And I explained everything to him. And I said, I have a radio show here in the Valley. And what I will do is mention your name personally and this school personally on the air, saying, this is what they're teaching to my daughter. Does your kid go to this school? I said, she will not be in the class anymore. Do you understand? And he just looked at me. He goes, okay, she can have an exemption from going in. I said, and she won't be penalized either. So I had to fight because they're pushing secularism. And a lot of schools are promoting homosexuality, having drag queens go in and teach stuff to kindergartens. This is immoral.
So my quick little look, I found the top post when you type this into Google talks about values clarification popping up in the 60s. And it's basically not a thing anymore, according to this website.
No, it's not true.
I've never heard of that.
It's not true.
So if it's not, it could very well not be a thing. Yes, but I wouldn't say it's the norm. I never heard of this in all the education classes I took on how to teach. That's not something I saw. So it could be a thing at your school, but I definitely wouldn't say it's something that is characteristic of education in the U.S.
It is characteristic.
So
they have their way.
Then I'm going to need something more than your daughter took it, because
no. It wasn't because my daughter took it. I knew about it beforehand because of what I do for a living. It has happened all over the United States, but the leftists have their way of suppressing information as well, and they change the names, and they call it something else, core value teaching, or whatever it is they call it now.
Yeah. When I was in school, we started each day with a devotion out of the Bible. We had a prayer and we pledged the flag. Now that my grandbaby's in school, they're not even allowed to say at Christmas anything about Jesus, but they can talk about Santa Claus all day long.
And again, that may be what's going on in your location. When I've taught this stuff, you can say Merry Christmas all you want, and you can have a conversation about it, but I can't tell the students XYZ.
We got that. We got that. You can't do that. We understand that. And you sound pretty level-headed about a lot of stuff. It's just that it's happening everywhere, and it's not taught. I've got persecution stuff listed on Karm. I need a whole bunch more. Laura Anderson just now said my daughter got sent to the principal's office for mentioning Christianity when they were talking about Mormonism. Yeah,
I don't know the specifics of that. I said I taught sciences. I didn't teach philosophy or politics or history or something like that. Yeah. But I what I'm trying to find is not anecdotal evidence, but the systematic persecution that you're talking. I'm looking for that systematic side of things, and because I never saw that systematic approach. I remember talking about when a student asked me questions, I'd answer them. But outside of historical context and possibly a context like English class, I never saw this persecution that you're talking about,
It's not like you don't see it doesn't happen, but it does
Well,
happen.
yeah, I know. That's why I'm asking for something systematic, because you can have teachers be jerks, no question, but
elementary and middle school still play the lifeboat game as part of their curriculum up here and stuff.
You know what that is?
I'm unaware of the lifeboat game.
I think if you, sir,
Tell them what it is.
It's part of the values clarification thing.
I think if you, the former teacher, sir, will listen just to the accents in this room, we are nowhere close to each other in the United States. So it's going on.
Yeah, the lifeboat game it has variations. Oh, my back. But hey, little boy, little girl, 9, 10, 12 years old. Hey, you know what? Imagine yourself in a boat out in the ocean, not enough food or not enough water, or there's too many people or whatever it might be. And there's 2 old people and 2 young people. There's a sick person. There's this. Who do you throw overboard?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I found it upon Googling. Is this something you're saying that it shouldn't be taught? Is this an example of a lesson that shouldn't be brought up at elementary school age?
Do you think that it should be brought up? Who are you going to throw off the boat? Whose life value has less?
For children, the impressionable minds of the children, and all the teacher's got to do is just say, oh, well, the weak and the infirm need to be gone. Oh, okay, teacher.
Well, to me,
I look at this, job.
And I see this as an example of a conversation you can have. Why do you think this person? Why do you think that person? It's a way to dig deeper into sociology.
No.
Simple level.
No. You don't know the impressionability of the mind. And I've studied cults for a long time.
I'm an educator. I know a bit about it.
Well, then you should know better. You should know that to do something like that, you can watch little faces open up into 0 IQ expression because they believe the great teacher. And then you can just explain whatever you want to them and they're going to believe. It happens. I see it even with adults when I do seminars and I teach. They still do it. People do that. You don't go to the child and start exploring moral values about which person to kill. That's not their stinking job.
You're taking again, I've never used this. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head here. I think you're taking this, what's it called again? I forgot already.
Values clarification.
Lifeboat. There we go. Lifeboat. You're taking this lifeboat example to a very dark place when
it's dark to begin with.
It's dark because it's been played out in real life. For the benefit of those that need to survive, we need to get rid of the infirmed, or we need to get rid of the mentally defective, or we need to get rid of the black people, or we need to get rid of the Jews. This was played out in real life.
Yes.
In Nazi Germany. We need to get rid of the gypsies. We need to get rid of and they systematically did this. They played the lifeboat game. The values clarification was put into practice.
So the example I found,
it is dark.
One of the first things at the studentroom.co.uk gave a list of 13 different people, a Catholic nun, a Jewish restaurant owner, a male criminal, a crippled boy, a black minister, what have you. And I guess, if I'm going to play devil's advocate here, I can see a benefit to having this sort of conversation with students, even at a young age, because they're all going to come up with different arguments and they can kind of talk to each other about, well, why do you think the Catholics should go overboard when I thought the cripple should go overboard?
Well, I think what if I were to come into your home with your children and say, hey, let's have a discussion, little boys and girls, on who the right person to kill is, okay? Let's sit down, little Johnny. Let's talk about how we can justify killing people. Yeah. You are part of the problem that the Bible talks about and prophesies about. That would be the bedrock of persecution on all kinds of people all over the world.
Again, I think you're taking this darker than it's intended to take. That's my argument. Is I see a benefit in people having conversations about differences, and you're seeing this just as
children. You don't have any kids, do you? You don't have any.
Yes, I do.
Oh, you
do? I do have children. Yes.
All right. Wow. Okay, this is depressing.
I am a heathen liberal, so obviously I don't know.
You are a heathen liberal.
But no, what I use, I said I never taught something that would utilize this, but I could see an argument for it. I can't see what you're on your screen.
I'll just see how it would look in the screen. That's all.
Oh, okay. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you could very well justify this should not be taught. I can see that argument, but I don't see the argument as in what you're describing, where they do this to teach elementary students to hate black people. That I don't see that anywhere, shape, or form in this particular example.
I was
using
using Nazi Germany as the specific example for the blacks. They thought they were an inferior race.
Yes, but I don't think Hitler learned that through the lifeboat game, though, right?
No, he learned that through his evolutionary view of the world, and that for the benefit of the many, the few could be done away with.
It was Hitler even said it was evolution
for the good of the human race.
Allowed the whole ideology of killing off the weak.
Yeah, Margaret Sanger expanded on it with eugenics, and as she founded Planned Parenthood as well.
And it was intended to kill the minority babies.
Exactly. Her first target was black babies.
That's right.
Sir, do you teach your children things that we're talking about that we feel are dark things? Do you talk to your children that way, or do you tell your children to love others and be good? And I'm not talking of works, but I'm saying if we're going to choose to teach our children love or death, which would you choose to teach your children?
My only two options are love and death. I'm probably going to go with love.
I think that's a great answer.
I would say you're kind of giving me a false dichotomy there a little bit, though. I would like to I teach my children the importance of, I guess, Martin Luther King Jr. judge the man by his character, not by anything else sort of stuff, you know. I think that's highly, highly important. But also, I think it's important for children to have a rational approach to things and know why they think what they think. For example, if my child does not want to give someone a hug they don't know, I don't force my child to give that person a hug, even if it's like a relative. Because if the kid doesn't want to give a hug, he doesn't need to give a hug.
That isn't what I'm saying. I'm not saying I never forced my child to hug. If they wanted to hug a relative, I was right there to watch, because frankly, I don't trust all relatives. But I sure never taught, because if we want to get down to it, with my help and my age, I guess I'd be the one tossed off the boat.
Well, so I think the lifeboat example to me reads as pick what you want and then justify it. Why should the elderly person be thrown off the boat and not the crippled person, for example?
That's the thing. It's an interesting intellectual exercise until I'm the Nazi in 1939 who knocks on your door as a Jew, and you have to explain to me why I should not kill you when it's been decided by society that that's the best thing to do. It's legal to do it. And by golly, I'm going to do it unless you can come up with a reason why I shouldn't. Then it becomes what you call dark. It's been played out. And then it's not an intellectual exercise anymore. It becomes a life and death thing that has choices and consequences.
To me, you're making a big jump that I'm not seeing, and you're not justifying the jump. You're just telling me that that's the next step when I'm not connecting those two dots. Like, I'm not granting you that the lifeboat question suddenly turns all children into Nazis, right? You're making that. I'm sorry. I'm just not seeing it.
You're not hearing what we're saying.
Maybe I'm not as smart as you guys. I don't know. You have more subs than I do on YouTube, so obviously I don't know, but
I'm just saying that the Nazis were a real world application of it. So was Pol Pot in Cambodia. Anybody that was educated, a teacher, or anybody that wore glasses, by the way, he would execute. I mean, if you had any indication that you were learned in any way,
ridiculously terrible stuff. I completely 100% agree with those statements.
When these lifeboat scenarios are played out in real life, they're horrible. They're hideous.
Yes. Again, I also agree with that sentiment. That being said, there is still, I could foresee an argument for the relevance in these conversations to people, to bring this conversation in at a young age.
Do
And
you plan to bring this conversation in with your children?
I need to get going. I'm going to get going. Hey, try to close the room when you can, okay?
Hey, I'll be
nice
closing
talking
it
to you,
pretty
Matt.
soon.
Thanks for having me in. Hopefully you don't hate me too much now.
No, don't hate you.
No haters here. For crying out loud. We pray for you, if anything.
I hear that all the time. So, actually, I gotta get going soon myself. But what'd you say?
Well, thanks for participating. Matt left, but thanks for participating. Appreciate it very much.
I said
I hope to be back.
I was saying that I plan to pray for you. I can't make out your name. It looks like Orge.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. I plan to pray for you, and I hope that you're not going to have this conversation to get your children's ideas on it. But that, they're not my children, so that it's none of my business, really.
I mean, I'm not here trying to say that every child should be taught this stuff off the top of my head. I'm sort of playing devil's advocate with this. And I think my biggest contention is sort of the leap that Charlie is making here, connecting this to basically throwing Godwin's law at this particular example. That's my big contention. I could see, if the list I have here, one student chooses the prostitute, the other student chooses the crippled boy, they can both talk, why did you choose prostitute, not cripple? I think that's an interesting conversation to have, even at like a 4th or 5th grade level, because these kids already have established norms from their homes, from media, what have you, and understanding why they think the way they think is a very valuable asset, even at a young age of 4 or 5.
Yeah, well, my career is dealing with kids and young people, and some of them don't even know the value of their very own life to start with. In our current culture, which is sad that they don't. Their expectation is very low for themselves in the future, and it's sad. People wonder why they don't value other people's lives. I dealt with a lot of drive-by shooters, and when we caught them, where are you going to be in 5 years, son? Well, I'll be dead or in jail, convicted of this crime. Yeah, it's like, really? I mean, this is their view. It's like a tunnel vision. They don't see anything outside of, well, I'll be dead or in jail. And they don't see the value of their life or the other people's. So
I completely agree. That's horrible. And I also think that is a very important subject to talk about. And lastly, I would say that is not as easily sugarcoated as have them open up and read the Bible every day, and this won't be an issue. I don't see those connect.
If we instill in them a good understanding of how valuable they really are as human beings, and how valuable others are too, then we're going in the right direction.
I agree with that sentence.
Yeah. Yes. From my Christian worldview, I see an atheist as a creature of God, and God says that he creates man to reflect his image. So they are in some capacity a reflection of God, and I'm going to respect that of them and treat them with decency and honor, because they somehow reflect the nature of God. I don't know how they do it. I don't even reflect it good sometimes. In fact, my reflection might be quite warped, but but I've got to value them at that level and know their value and acknowledge mine as well. But I have to acknowledge the values of others as being very high in order for me to hope to have be surrounded by people that will make life worth living, even if they are atheists. If you use Pascal's wager, you end up with people treating each other well, even if one doesn't believe there's an afterlife to enjoy anyway. But if you act like there is, then we're going to be win-win on both ends.
Yeah, and I could say that exact same thing that you just said, but I don't bring up God, and I don't see a difference. So, But anyways,
Okay.
I do. I said I was going to go to bed like 20 minutes ago, but you people just kept talking to me, blaming you for this. And hopefully I'll be on and we'll talk again later.
Wonderful. That would be great. Look forward to it.
Yep. Take care, everyone.
You too.
God bless.
Interesting.
Okay. Yes.
You know, you run into characters like that are pleasant to talk to and mild mannered and civil and polite, and it's like, oh, you know, I wish I had him for a neighbor so I could talk to him some more, you know. But and then of course there's the bozos that are out there, which well, I shouldn't say that. I would I wouldn't put him in that class, but some of the people out there, gosh, they are something.
Hey, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
I don't know if you remember, if you can remember what he said, and I meant to try to get to him, but everybody was talking. Who was the guy, or what was Matt talking about before we got onto this conversation about the boat and all? Some guy in Georgia about something when he was talking about, you know, the government and all that. Something that had happened. You know, can you remember what he's talking about?
Oh yeah, conservative Christian Trump supporters should have their children taken away from them and put into re-education camps. I mean, the language is right out of, you know.
Oh yes, sir. But there was something else. There was another when he said he was writing an article, or trying to write an article, and I think it was something that happened in Georgia. And he gave a guy's name, and it was interesting. I was wanting to look it up, but I
didn't catch the name. And of course, I'm in a whole I'm in a whole different state than Matt, so I don't get to work, you know, too close with him on what he's putting together. Sometimes I'll shoot him.
And I thought it was right when he was talking about 1984 in the book, and he brought up something, a real world thing that had happened, but I just can't remember.
And that just happened this week. That guy talking like that. That was
this was something like, all right.
Oh, the PBS dude that got fired. Yeah, Laura mentions him. He was a hideous guy. Project Veritas exposed him. Project Veritas does a lot of good investigative reporting that exposes some of these people. Here's this guy at PBS getting paid by our tax money, and he hates our guts, and he's kind of proud of it, you know. So he got fired. Well, you know, I'll leave that to the executives there that supervise him. I mean, he wouldn't have lasted long in my organization.
Cry me a river.
Yeah.
I don't feel the least bit sorry for him.
Yeah.
I feel sorry he's lost, but
lost is right. Yes.
And I feel sorry that anybody is lost, but as far as him getting fired and being so evil, that's what happens. My husband's a good man, been in the same company 21 years, and he gets no seniority, no respect. They let all these masks be worn, but he sure can't. He's not allowed to wear a Christian mask.
Yeah. It's become tolerable to be prejudiced against Christianity in some level or another. You know, Martin Luther King's coming up. His day is coming up here this month. You know, I admired him for his non-violent protest, his civil disobedience, but it was non-violent civil disobedience. He used Gandhi as one of his role models. Gosh, I wish that would catch on again. That man in that dimension, he was right on. And I think someone else mentioned tonight, maybe it was Orge 343 there, that judge a person by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Those are just jewels that people should latch onto and really build on. And the nonviolent civil disobedience. I remember when I was young, there were sit-ins and different things like that.
But it was peaceful. But it was peaceful.
Exactly. And that's the way it's supposed to be. but you won't see a sit-in today. They'll roll over anybody that wants to try and do a sit-in. I mean, it's
We've
just
got a
not.
sit-in going on in town here, but it's people that have already caused, they've already wreaked havoc, and the Panthers were out in the main street with AKs, and so now they've decided to go back to the same place that they're trying to ruin, that's been here since 1940 or before. And so they're taking it's BLM, and I don't have anything against a black person. The organization BLM I do have a lot against. And she had on great big earrings, BLM, and so they've all gone into the ice cream place, and they buy a drink, and then they don't drink it, and then they sit down and take up every pew. And this is what she announced on Facebook Saturday night. That she's not, wait just a second. She said that they were doing that. They were sitting down like up against the wall and then stretching their legs out over the rest of the bench. And she said they were doing that because the white people got to sit down on the bus. Well, no, you're looking for something to gripe about.
Yeah.
But Rosa Parks it was terrible, drinking out of different water fountains and those things. It was terrible, but it doesn't make it right today to go in and try to ruin an establishment because you're mad.
Yeah, that's just a meanness tactic, but they're practicing these tactics, and they're teaching these tactics. Sadly, yeah, the nonviolent civil disobedience of the style of Martin Luther King has sadly faded. Maybe people will be reminded of it as his Martin Luther King holiday comes up here soon.
Well, I hope, but I'm afraid that I think everybody's too mad.
Yeah, well.
But if you look hard enough, it's not hard to find something to be mad about.
That's true. That's true.
So,
yeah. Well, hopefully, I'll be in here for the radio show tomorrow. I got to go get some treatment done to my knee. They took off about half a pint of liquid from it last week. I didn't know it was there. And the doctor said when he took it out, he was going to put in some lubricant. And I said, good gosh, you don't put that much lubricant back in to replace it, do you? And he laughed at me. He says, no. I says, is that an unusual amount of water to have on my knee? He goes, of course it is. He said, you should feel immediate relief. And I got off the table. I said, well, I kind of do. And he was laughing at me. So I'm going to get another one of those treatments tomorrow, and then a week from tomorrow. So he's a real good guy, and he has fun with me, and I'm looking forward to. I think I might have overdid it a little bit with this tree clearing. I tried to take it easy. But there were some young kids out there, a family from our church that stopped by, and their dad had a chainsaw, and another guy, a professional logger, came by with his chainsaw, and found out they both go to our church. We just haven't made too much contact with this COVID going on, but I'm going to make sure and make some contact. Of course, Debbie gave the kids a coloring book and a calendar and everything, and did what we could, to thank them. And hopefully we can do something like that too, and pay it forward in some instance where we can be of help. So, yeah, unsolicited. They were just driving by and saw the need and stopped and asked to help. And I mean, that's how it should be.
Well, we'll certainly be keeping you in prayer. I went through all that too, and then ended up with both knees replaced.
Oh, really? Well,
Yes.
I hope I don't get to that point, but we're going to try this lubricant first. He said it works for some people very well. He says others it doesn't work worth a darn. He says some people they claim it cured them. He says we'll find out where you fall in this what category you fit into after we're done with the treatments. I said okay. So the first one went well, so I'm not afraid of it or anything.
Well, that's great. And we'll be praying for the Lord's will, but that I'll say this, we hope the Lord's will is that it's going to fix it and you don't have to go through
Yep.
knee replacements.
Yep. Me too. I got a good report from my eye doctor today, and the lady that had the baby at just over a pound, she's supposed to have been back by now, but she's not. She's still taking care of the baby, so the baby's doing better. Little Graceland,
Oh,
and so she's going to come back to work soon. They said they weren't sure when, but I go in there every few weeks, and when she gets back, I'm going to get an update right from mom on baby Graceland. But from what they tell me, she's progressing well.
we lift her every single day.
Wonderful. Oh yeah, that I mean, these little ones, that's what the kingdom of God is. If you believe Jesus, you look at them and you're seeing a piece of it. And so yeah, it's such a joy and a pleasure and an honor to raise those little ones up to him.
Okay, well, we'll let you go. Enjoyed it, and thank you for everything that you do.
Oh, thank you guys for all your participation. Appreciate it so much. And Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow during the showtime.
Yes, and we'll go in there. Matt's already beat me to the bed. I'll go in there and we'll have prayer now.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, everybody else. Appreciate Laura, and I'm looking at the text now. Humbled Clay. I like that handle. Humbled Clay.
Yeah, he's one of our Carmites.
Is he really? Humbled Clay. What a nice nick to go under. I wish I was a little more humbled sometimes. The clay that I am, but the Lord's still working me on his little round spinning table, working my clay. He puts the squeeze on me every once in a while, and I don't like that. But I end up looking better than what I did before he put the squeeze on me.
Yes, right. It's like a chiropractor. Boy, it hurts when you come out.
Yep.
Okay, y'all. Good night and God bless.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.